sounding the alarm. The CEO of America's largest bank warning of extraordinary complacency, saying that Trump's tariffs right now are extreme. So here he is, JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon.
Even if these are low levels, they stay where they are today, that's pretty extreme tariffs. My own view is where people feel pretty good because you haven't seen an effect of tariffs. The market came down 10%, it's back up 10%. I think that's an extraordinary amount of complacency.
An extraordinary amount of complacency. And Dimon is really pointing out a simple fact, which is that tariffs of 30% on China, 10% on the rest of the world, on top of whatever was existing already, is massive. It is extreme. And right now, the stock market is trading literally as if none of these tariffs exist, back to the way it traded before anything was even announced. But the reality of it is, of course, is prices are going up and some items are not being restocked. Within the past hour, we learned that imports into America's largest port dropped 30% in the first week of May alone. And the Port of Los Angeles says that the drop for all of May they expect will be a massive 25%. Just put that another way, maybe it hits home more strongly. That is a quarter of all imports into the largest port in America. And for Dimon and other leaders in the American economy, the problem is even bigger.
We have huge deficits. We have what I consider complacent almost complacent. The central banks think they're omnipotent, and you all think they can manage through all this. I don't think they manage all that.
And as I said, Dimon is not alone. One of his top rivals, Citigroup CEO Jane Fraser, said very simply, something deeper is going on. Billionaire investor Ray Dalio added to that, warning the risk to U.S. Treasuries is even greater than the warning from Moody's, which, of course, on Friday night, you may remember, slashed America's last remaining perfect credit rating. Now, Trump tells CEOs when he meets with them, and I've heard this from several of them, that he believes tariffs are going to solve America's debt problem and enable him to cut taxes, that all this money is going to pay for that from the tariffs, even as they sit there and try to explain that tariffs are cutting demand for products because tariffs increase prices. So the complacency Dimon refers to is real. Or as one CEO told me today, it's a slow burn on tariffs until it isn't. That's when everyone experiences it. And then there is something even deeper than Trump's tariffs. So just take a look at the bond market today. The yield, or basically the interest rate as we experience on U.S. 10 and 30-year treasuries, which typically goes down in times of turmoil because when people are afraid, they buy the safest thing they think they can buy. That's U.S. debt. The more you buy, the less interest the U.S. has to pay on that debt. But right now, those interest rates are going up. The 30-year at one point traded above 5 percentage points, so 5% on a 30-year. The 10-year topped 4.5% during the day. And the debt that Americans pay on mortgages, on car loans, on credit cards, all of that is pegged off of those 30-year rates. So the rising interest rates there does trickle down to all of us. And Team Trump is now blaming Biden for America's debt problem and the Moody's downgrade of U.S. debt.
We didn't get here in the past 100 days. It's the Biden administration and the spending that we have seen over the past 4 years.
Now, Scott Bessent is a really smart man, and he knows that is not true. Fiscal mismanagement and spending money that America does not have, spending it like drunken sailors, is, well, that's a bipartisan problem. But it really, if you're going to look at the 4 years of Biden, is much more of a Trump problem. In fact, Trump is the biggest driver of America's spending problem. When you look at presidential 4-year terms, Trump added $8.4 trillion to the debt in his first 4 years. That is nearly double what Biden added, and Scott Bessent is well aware of that. $4.7 trillion for Biden. Again, drunken sailors may all be bad actors, but blaming this on Biden is wrong, and it is important to state the facts. Because Trump is right now trying to add more debt, pushing Republicans to pass what would add more to the national debt.
The one big beautiful bill, as we call it. But we're talking about the great big beautiful bill. I said, why don't we just call it the great big beautiful bill? Our big beautiful bill, as I call it, our big beautiful bill.
Well, the bill is big. As for beautiful, it could add between $3 and $5 trillion to the U.S. debt, according to the estimates. So the debt is a problem. That would be another massive increase. And when it comes to Trump's trade war, Americans will soon feel the impact coming from every direction. So as rates possibly go up, you now see the impact of prices and tariffs. Just today, Subaru in America announcing it's about to raise the price on several of its models, a hike that could range between $750 per vehicle to more than $2,000 per vehicle. Trump will soon be unable to strong-arm or threaten companies from telling consumers why prices are going up if you start having them across the board like that. So far, he's publicly berated Walmart after the nation's largest retailer announced it would be forced to raise some prices. Trump posted on his social media website, "Eat the tariffs," posting that to Walmart. And after a report that Amazon was going to show the price of an item and then break out the tariff so that consumers could see why prices are going up and by how much, the White House responded with this.
This is a hostile and political act by Amazon.
And then Trump got on the phone. He called Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and, well, Bezos caved. Amazon caved for now. No longer any transparency about what Trump's tariffs are costing their customers. Maybe that's some of the reason for the complacency, the delayed reaction for consumers and the markets. Torsten, I know you have been doing the analysis on this, an extensive analysis of the housing market and the implications here. When Jamie Dimon warns of complacency on tariffs, he's basically saying to the market, maybe you guys haven't seen or realized what's really about to happen, but you're not looking into the future. And this is a problem, right? He's also warning of a debt crisis. And you hear Jane Fraser from Citigroup, you hear Ray Dalio.
Yeah, I think the challenge here is that tariffs, of course, when they were implemented, implies that someone needs to pay the tariff when a container arrives in Los Angeles. And that cost, given the tariffs are so elevated, in particular on China, but also, of course, on 90 other countries, is going to be paid by someone. And the fear in the market at the moment is very little that this is coming. But I think if you do begin to quantify what are the implications, you do get some fairly significant numbers. For example, the Yale Budget Lab is quantifying that the impact on GDP as a result of this level of tariffs we have at the moment is going to drag GDP down by 0.7%. So not a recession, but a slowdown in economic growth, and therefore also a hit to earnings over the coming quarters.
And you see it at regular America. You can think of big ticket items that people need to buy, right? Whether, I mean, people don't have to buy a car. Maybe you can delay that, or you could buy a used car. Prices trickle down. People need to buy car seats. These things are big ticket items, but real price increases make a huge difference. The Subaru ones, I said 700 to 2,000. And then when Trump says to Walmart should stop trying to blame tariffs as the reason for raising prices throughout the chain. That's Trump's post. I mean, that's a ridiculous thing to say.
Well, so one way of looking at it is that someone has to pay the bill for the container that's coming in from China or from the rest of the world. And the question here is it companies that are going to pass it on 100% to consumers? Therefore, consumer prices will go up, and therefore demand, meaning what companies will be selling, will be going down. That would be a negative hit to earnings for corporate America. Or it could also be corporate America could say, we completely eat the tariffs ourselves, and therefore we do not pass anything on to consumers. But that would certainly also be a negative hit to earnings. So either way, no matter if companies pass on 100% or 50% or zero, someone has to pay the bill, and either it goes through earnings in companies going down directly if they pass on nothing, or if they pass on 100%, it will go through consumers simply buying less, buying fewer cars, buying fewer washers, dryers, durable goods, and of course, in Walmart's case, buying things that they have on the shelf, which is now more expensive.
Right. And the point is, even if you if you were to pass it along in full, on an item, any given item, who knows what tariffs were underlying on it or whatever, let's just be simple, 30% increase in your suit. But it could be more than that. Or even if you're still paying 15% more. Well, I mean, that's going to affect people's buying decisions.
And that absolutely is why this is creating this unfortunate cocktail of not only will earnings be lower for corporate America, so that's why Jamie Dimon is right to point out that the E in the PE ratio is going to take a hit. Yep. But we will also see that prices are going up. So not only are earnings going down, but inflation is also going up. And that's a definition of stagflation. That is a definition where you both have GDP growth slowing, meaning earnings and the economy slowing down. Yep. And you at the same time also have prices going up on the CPI index, meaning consumer prices.
And so that's the kind of the immediate thing that we're staring at. And that's frightening for people.
That will come over the next several quarters for sure.
And so that is frightening. And then you have the macro problem of too much debt and too much borrowing, which Trump thinks tariffs are going to help alleviate. But you had done some analysis, Torsten, that I just wanted to put up here because we were talking about why interest rates on treasuries are going up. And they're going up and up and the impacts that have. But you were actually looking at how much U.S. treasuries are owned by foreigners. And you have a number here of $9 trillion. Okay, out of about a total of what, 32 trillion?
Exactly.
Okay, so this is foreign ownership. So we'll just put foreign. Okay, I'll put it up here, right? And then total treasuries are 32 trillion. Okay. All right, this 9 trillion number, about 10% of it is China. That's so what are you seeing? I mean, everyone's been saying, well, what's happening in these every day in these auctions? What are you seeing? You're seeing something.
Yeah, one way of looking at that is several things to look at. You can look at some of the auction metrics. Whenever the U.S. Treasury does an auction and they sell government debt, there's a number of statistics that come out together with that. And a number of these statistics, including indirect bidding, meaning how much comes from including foreigners, also allotments when it goes to who it is exactly is the buyer. Those things have been suggesting that foreigners have less demand for buying treasuries. But perhaps perhaps most importantly, the dollar speaks for itself because the dollar tells you that foreigners are selling US assets. And that's, of course, the risk and the fear you can have, namely that if the dollar goes down, that means that foreigners are selling US assets and ultimately, therefore, beginning to think about what is our holdings and what should be our right holdings of assets, not only, of course, of treasuries, but also of US equities.